Well, this is supposedly a COVID bill. It's really very little to do with COVID. They're shoveling out hundreds of billions of dollars to corrupt cities and incompetently run states. So they're really subsidizing failure at the state and local level, not fixing anything to do with COVID. Plus, there's already $1 trillion that's been appropriated that hasn't been spent yet. So this is just one more throwing money up in the air. It's exactly what Obama and Biden did back in 2009, and that's why we had the slowest recovery, the weakest recovery since World War II. Throwing money up does not stimulate the economy. Reducing taxes does.
Well, to that point, you look at this, increase in debt. We've got debt run amok across this globe right now. We're looking at sovereign debt and all debt north of $277 trillion. It seems as if debt no longer has the same meaning. People have begun to believe in this magical thinking that we can just print money and it's going to have no impact. What are your concerns for corporate America as it relates to how Biden plans to, if at all, pay for this rapid spending? And then two, as we look at debt writ large from our states to our federal government and around the globe, what are the potential pitfalls for the economy as a whole?
Well, Biden said he wasn't going to tax average taxpayers. But in point of fact, once he got elected, he's now talking about a gasoline tax. He's talking about an energy tax, which raises the cost of everything that you buy. It's paid by all citizens, all consumers. They're talking about a soda tax. They're talking about, and all sorts of different taxes at middle-income people. And he wants to bring back that Obamacare penalty tax, which hit 5 million American families, and 3/4 of them earned less than $50,000 a year. So this is a massive tax increase on working men and women coming down the pipeline. They like to talk about taxing billionaires, but they only do that to distract you from the fact that they're all over your pockets already. And we're going to see, unfortunately, more of that when we look at the people that he's been putting into government. They're out bragging about taxing the middle class and how they're going to have to suffer and be forced to do what they want to do. We just saw the statement from the Green New Deal guy up in Massachusetts, where they said we're going to have to push people into using less energy, right. Making them poorer by raising the cost of energy. That's their policy. High energy costs to make you change your behavior.
Right. Now, to that point, you're talking about engaging in Obama 2.0. When we look at the pain that we're having on Main Street, you reference what most people know, the slowest recovery in the history of the modern world under President Obama, coming out of that Great Recession. You have Democrats who have been acting as if we've been in the recession for a very long time. How, if at all, do we get people to understand that these economic policies being put forth by Biden are not their salvation, but are probably going to lead to inflation, are probably going to lead to a decrease in job opportunities, particularly when you start looking at the fact that they're trying to embed an increase to the minimum wage at a time when most businesses are barely hanging on?
Yes, all these policies are going to hurt middle-income people. They're going to slow the economy. They're going to kill jobs. We've already seen these executive orders where the Keystone Pipeline is shut down. It's thousands and thousands of jobs killed. And they've said no more drilling for oil or natural gas on federal land. Again, a lot of jobs and a lot of Western states raise money off of that oil and natural gas to pay for schools. So there's a lot of damage that Biden's already doing by shutting down those jobs. We know that when you raise the minimum wage that you reduce the number of jobs. The Congressional Budget Office says somewhere between 1 and 4 million jobs will be killed if you raise the minimum wage to $15. Doesn't make any sense to have the same minimum wage in New York City as in Nebraska. Right. The cost of living is completely different. So this is very damaging. This is the third time now that the Democrats did this. They came in with Democrat House, House, Senate, and President in '92 with Clinton, spent, taxed, and they lost the House and Senate. Right. Then they came in with Obama, House, Senate, President. They taxed, they spent, they lost the House and almost the Senate in the first year. So the Democrats are setting themselves up to waste a lot of money. Yes, they'll bring back inflation. We haven't dealt with inflation since Reagan got rid of it, but it was 10, 11, 12%, 2 years in a row. Awfully rough stuff, very damaging. And it was one of Reagan's great successes to both get the economy going with lower taxes and to end the rapid inflation that we had under Jimmy Carter.
Right.
So the Democrats are setting up to do a lot of damage to the economy. They'll lose the House in 2 years, maybe the Senate as well. So the bleeding will stop. But it's going to be an expensive 2 years.
Right. Now, to that point, most people know you for the crusade you've been on to make sure that we alleviate the tax burden on the American people. Obviously, number one, to make sure they keep more of their money in their own pockets, but also, two, because we know it's the best pathway to economic prosperity. Taking this to a 30,000-foot view, the politics aside, how do we inject common sense back into this conversation? You mentioned before these states that have been spending money like drunken sailors. They're crying poor now because of COVID and hoping that nobody notices that in places like New York, we had multiples of billions of dollars of debts and deficits predating COVID. And we were already going to be dealing with the outcomes of this gross negligence by the people we've entrusted to maintain the bottom line.
Yeah, well, politicians only learn when they lose an election. And unfortunately, there won't be any learning going on behalf of the politicians for the next 2 years. But the American people will learn that when they were told they weren't going to get taxed by Biden, they were lied to. When they were told they wouldn't notice the higher cost of energy that the Democrats intend to impose on people, they will notice that. And I think that 2 years from now, there'll be fewer Democrats in the House and fewer Democrats in the Senate. You'll have Biden, who will be in the White House, as both Clinton and Obama were, without the ability to spend any additional money or raise taxes because they lost control of Congress. That's the only way to begin to get back to get control of spending.